to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Minutes of the previous meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Do we have any additions or corrections to them? None, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bills, there's additional bills. Yes. What about those in the order?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion is second to approve the bills. Further discussion on that? Question? Seeing none, roll call please.
Brown,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Brett,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye. Motion carries. Financial reports. Anything crazy? I didn't see anything on this, but.
Pretty good.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the financial reports. Further discussion, questions for Ken? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Treasurer's checks.
Move to approve. Second.
Next one. This guy. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve treasurer's checks. Further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Agenda, anything to add?
Sorry, I got caught on track.
Nothing to add to the agenda, I entertain a motion to accept this.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, the agenda is approved. Okay, from there we will jump into budget. Budget. First up is, good morning.
Good morning. As you can see, I did the budgets for the recorder's office. I added a little bit. I added a little bit onto the service agreements just because increases in between Tyler and UD. Sort of all of our microfiche stuff, they're going up a little bit. Most of the other stuff stayed the same. I did ask for some money to actually try to continue doing the indexing for next year. As you know, we did it for Katie this last year on a per document fee, that was 35 cents. She would be interested in continuing doing it, but she won't do it per document because it takes her a lot longer than she figured. Now she would, if we're gonna continue with her, she'd like a fee per hour, $18 per hour.
Start again on that one now?
Yeah.
I thought we had an agreement.
Yep, we had an agreement, the contract ends the end of December. It was 35 cents per document, which was extremely cheap. I did get a quote from US Imaging. If they did it, they're pretty much the ones that most others do it. It's $1.25 a document. Katie now has figured out that that's really cheap. If she's gonna continue to do it, we want her to continue to do it in 2023. She would like $18 an hour. She's averaging 85 to 100 hours a month. So it'd be about $1,800 a month.
Oh, this is laughable. I thought we had an agreement. Do we have a written agreement?
This one goes till the end of December.
And she won't have it done.
She will, but there is hundreds of thousands of documents in our office.
She's back to what year?
Right now, she is done 11 years. We were complete from 1968 to current. We gotta go back to 1882. That's when our documents started.
Well, yeah, I got that figured out.
Yeah.
Could we, I'd rather do it, per document than,
We should address this as a special deal in a commission meeting, not during our budget.
during our budget.
What do you think, Jeff? Let's just deal with it.
What line item is that under?
That'd be under Android. I've been paying it out of our
Okay,
Android.
on the end account, okay.
It's on 21.
For one? Okay.
Yeah.
One.
Well, I mean, for budgeting purposes, you can just leave the number in there and then we can figure out exactly how we're going to handle it, I suppose, when it's, the contract's up or when we have to negotiate with Katie or open it up for bids or how we would like to do it.
Be better probably for your budget that way anyway.
Right.
That way it won't come out of your budget, it will come out of it.
Be set aside and done as a special project.
Okay.
Is the state holding over us to do this?
No, it's not. It is, the biggest thing is trying to get everything into the computer system in a timely manner, because if something would happen to our books, we have no record.
So how far back are we trying to go to?
If Katie keeps up the pace that she's at, we'll be back into the middle to late 1950s by the end of the contract,
Of
So
this
she'll
current
have-
contract?
this current contract.
So she's gonna have like 70 years done in a year, that's pretty good.
Pardon me?
She'll have like 70 years done in a year, that's pretty good.
It's gonna be,
So we,
well, it'll be probably about 20, I think we calculated.
oh, it was 68 to the 50s, we had 68 up in, that's correct, okay.
But when I checked with US Imaging, that's the one that most of the recorders use. Right now, they're at $1.25 per document. So, I would have had them do the indexing from January 1st to current. Just these 6 months, it would have cost us $28,567 from US Imaging. From Katie, it's cost us just a little over 8,000.
So that was my question before, how far back do we plan on going? 1900, 18, what's the?
I would say as far back as we can go, as far as we can afford. You gotta remember, our documents are from 1882 to current.
Okay, so 1882 would be how far we would go to complete it.
To complete it, yes.
So this is gonna be an ongoing project for years, basically, it's just a matter of chipping away at it, kind of like we did with the scanning of the documents. You build the Android account, you chip away at it, just gotta keep rolling until you get it done, it's gonna take a while.
The only reason I asked that, are we better off, maybe later on to discuss it, are we better off to have a contract just to go all the way back to that, have a 5-year contract?
Let's do it.
Complete?
Let's do a decade or two at a time.
You know what I'm saying, so it's, we
No,
don't have to
Yeah.
we don't have to keep coming up with this.
Yeah. Yeah, US Imaging would do less fee, but it's less information they're gonna put into there, so we'd still have to go back and include information that they would leave off. Like it said in the thing, they could leave off the legal descriptions. That's how we search. We need the legal descriptions on it. But they could save 60 cents. But they're not really accomplishing much in my view.
Okay, any other questions pertaining to this in the budget for that?
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, Lisa gets to be next.
Yep.
Where's each, hold on, maybe 5 and 9.
Yep, 5 and then 9, I guess. 5 is the treasurer's budget. I don't know, do you have any questions? It's pretty much the same. Technology, of course, went up because we get a quote from Steve, and that has went up. That's with everybody. I don't know if you have any questions on that one. And then going on to the superintendent of schools, I did go up in the miscellaneous because we've been giving the school a joint, we have joint, duties with them as far as the math count and the spelling bee. And we've been giving them $1,000 a year. And we have not, I mean, that's been since Bev Schmidt left. And I talked to Matt Bakke and he was wondering if we could, you know, spice the pot a little bit to hang on to the spelling bee, have somebody, we had a gal from the middle school do it last year and she did a wonderful job, so I did increase that. So we were gonna go up to 2,000 in there, so we would give the school the 2,000. Any questions?
The only question I would have is there any, obviously it's looking at the crystal ball, but is there any anticipation of we're gonna have any annexations, meetings, issues of that nature? And is that something that causes the budget to have to need more money because you have publications and
Exactly.
meetings and things of that nature?
Exactly, and you know, there is a, out of Williston, or whatever Williston, yeah, Williams counties, there is a individual that will come up and do a annexation, cause it's a lot of legal work, which I would need both for that. There's a lot of ins and outs for all of that, and you gotta know what you're doing with costly. Whether it's an annexation, reorganization, or,
I don't think it'll be in Ramsey County for a while, that's my guess.
you know, I don't know, you've
I've
got
heard-
two
I've
hanging
heard-
out there,
I've heard
but
otherwise.
yeah,
I'm just curious.
I haven't heard anything, so I'm assuming they're going on for,
Okay.
Next year.
Hopefully they do.
okay, well, that'd be
That's
good,
for I asked.
be good.
Okay, any other questions for Lisa then?
Thank you.
Very good,
Yes.
thanks,
You
Lisa.
said you put that school under the miscellaneous. Right?
We pay that, yeah, we pay it out of miscellaneous, yes,
Okay, very good.
and it is a lot of work, you know, one teacher, I meet with her.
Couple $1,000 run math counts in the spelling bee.
The spelling bee was a hit this last year, it was yeah,
We have, how many kids did we have participate? Quite a few.
oh, there was quite a few, there had to be at least 40
Yeah.
that did because there's so many out of each grade and so many out of each school. And Starkweather came and Edmore was there and St. Joe's and the Devil's Lake.
I'm all behind the spelling bee.
Yes.
Even though I lost it every year, I'm all behind.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just updated the salaries as provided, and then I rounded our technology as that number seems to fluctuate each year. That's the service contracts that Steve gives us the increases or decreases for. I also updated our service contracts, our software and software that we share paying for with the recorder's office both increased a little bit, so just rounded that number off also. And that is all that I updated in the budget.
And one thing I wanna mention is that Beth has talked to myself and Candy about an upgrade to a vehicle. We didn't put it in the budget because we thought we maybe wanna be able to take that out of COVID dollars. I think I'd be a lot more comfortable sending Beth and Christie out doing assessing in a more reliable vehicle than what we currently have. And Beth has said she doesn't need to know. We appreciate that, but, something I think I wanna make the commission aware of, that and the one that they have is, old, it's, worn out and it's unreliable. One of the things that they require would be four-wheel drive and something with some ground clearance. You know, four-wheel drive Dodge Chargers would not work, but something with higher ground clearance. We all have driven some of those areas in our county that four-wheel drive is not a luxury, but a need. So,
It's a 2008 Trailblazer that we have now, and it just went over 101,000 miles on it. So that's where I thought we should start the conversation possibly for the future. I did get a quote on what's trade-in value from like AAA, and it's $3,600.
We should just sell
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, we did discuss all that stuff already.
So we'll work that in somewhat.
Yep.
Other than that, that was all I had for budget business. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions for Beth? Seeing none,
right,
Beth,
thank you.
appreciate it. Glenn's gonna sell the Trailblazer for us. Brian, good morning.
Good morning. Pretty simple budget, I think. Wages are as were presented on our commission meeting. IT, service fee went up a little bit, and then, I did just drop the training down a little bit. If you have any question, pretty similar to year after year.
it. Refresh my memory, Brian, but part of this is paid by social service too, right?
Candy can elaborate, but
No?
the salary, oh, it isn't.
Mhm.
Really?
And I think
Which
that
one
should be
is?
talked about, yeah. Which one is?
There's no one that.
Uh-uh.
I was under the assumption it was almost like a 50.
Me too.
No.
Well, it's a direct versus indirect cost. So they consider this a direct cost, correct?
No, they consider it. We don't get our 2 cents. Every county in the state's getting drilled for this, huh?
So maybe
I think we
we
should
should,
change that.
just
I don't disagree.
keep track of the hours, you know, like how many hours you do general, just for our. So if it does come up and we can get paid for it. We would
Before the
kinda
state
know.
takeover though, weren't we, putting part of this on social service?
It never has.
Public health is contracted with us for Brian services for.
So they pay part of
Yeah,
it.
they pay a little bit.
It's very
very,
minimal,
yeah.
yeah.
Like-
And I'm very minimal. I think we charge $25 an hour. I might, some months I don't even.
You don't do much work for that.
Yes, it's, yeah, maybe $1,000, couple thousand bucks a year.
I don't even know it's that much.
You must have talked about it, but we never had the door slammed in our face, so.
Well, I think the big changes was going from a part-time
Right.
employee to a full-time.
Well, that's the cost we had to eat because, I mean, you have, with the amount of employee, I mean, we're up to what, 100 and with social services, like 120 or something like that. I mean, you have to have full-time HR, we're constantly hiring and firing.
Yeah.
Would you have a rough idea of what work you do for social service?
They're definitely 50%.
They are.
They have the turnover.
Yeah, very
turnover,
Mhm.
discipline, yeah.
Yeah.
Run and hire.
Yeah, we're constantly hiring because you're always training somebody, getting them up to snuff, and then they're going someplace else and you're hiring somebody.
Yeah, they have a lot of turnover.
Okay.
Something to, put on the, maybe we should make some noise list.
That is interesting.
Loading the gun, yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Brian?
Brian, do you have any updates from that, HR market salary survey?
Yep, so we had a call with them yesterday. They extended the data collection time during audit period. A lot of the auditors wanted that information, so they had, they were busy. So, the end of this week will be the deadline, and then we'll really start seeing some meat and potatoes stuff from them starting next week with the data they're collecting. We are a little disappointed with the response from the other counties. They reached out to 20 entities, one including the city, one of them was the city, and as of last week, end of last week, or as of yesterday, 9 people responded. But there was another 4 or 5 that said they were going to complete their survey. So, which is a pretty good, they were pretty happy with. They'd be happy with that that much data, so.
Okay, well,
Hopefully we'll start hearing more from that in the coming weeks.
yep. Hope so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Sheriff Nelson.
Morning.
Morning. Right on time. What do we got? Good.
We pretty much went with the recommended salary issues. Of course, with the one change of adding one new employee, which Andy and I were still discussing where we're gonna put that, as far as what's in my budget. We increased our fuel line, our vehicle expense budget. My one concern is I don't know if I went high enough, but I don't know what's, you know, as far as gas prices is gonna be the big deciding factor there. Other than that, everything pretty much stayed the same. We were running about 70%, so 70 to 80%. It should be good enough for next year as well, even if there is some increase.
Drug task force, you got that crossed out?
Yeah, that's.
That's the zero, there was 2 line items in there,
Oh,
and there's another one further back that everything got moved into.
okay,
For some reason, there was 2 created, so we just eliminated the one,
gotcha.
because we only do the one payment.
We're gonna hold the same number of people there as we've had. Same amount of people we've had on the drug task force.
Yes, yeah, that's staying the same for now. The rest of the counties still haven't decided to want to go higher, so. And it kind of depends on their input, if they want to add more funding to take over that next position, if we add one. Because we've got 1.5, the city has 1, and then the other counties have the other half. So we would take over the half that we have 1, and so we got 2 full, but they'd have to pick up the other full-time person, and they aren't ready to do that yet, so.
Yeah,
Because we haven't asked this year, we asked last year, we haven't asked again, but. Is that true?
Should we ask?
That's up to them, but Dakota County's not, you know. at
We
this
should
point.
ask them though, right?
It was pretty adamantly, they weren't gonna wanna do it last time, so we haven't even thought about it. This year.
I got an idea, Nelson's changed their mind.
Okay. Well, from what I've heard from Travis is that there's a couple that are thinking about not even funding their part again, so. I don't know where, I gotta talk to them. And get back to you by next meeting and see if we wanna try to push that.
Probably don't
That's
have,
still before the deadline, right?
probably don't have any drugs in that county.
We can find out different.
Good thought.
Like I said, we broached this hard, we pushed this hard last year.
Yeah.
And they didn't wanna go, so we haven't even talked about it, so
The same problem as it's always been. They know that the trades are happening here, so why is it their money? That's pretty short-sighted, I guess, in my mind. They know we're gonna take care of it, so.
I think we should ask again.
okay.
So just for my curiosity question, Candy, these actual numbers are through 6 months, correct?
Yes,
That's what I said.
I waited until the end of June. to find everything.
Okay, any questions for Steve?
Is that enough for radios?
Well, between this year and next year, it should be.
Okay. We're still waiting a little bit for our.
So about halfway through, well, if we get the ones go. I ordered them last December,
Yep,
My answer is they might come in a month, they might come in a year.
Um,
So we're still waiting on new radios coming, so,
Told me the same thing.
so. We're still waiting on the ones we did order, so I should probably order a couple more, so they're here by next year, but.
Yeah,
After the two that are on order, we would have, my fleet would be half done. I have 4 done, I need 4 more, 5 more. So just about half done if we, I'm thinking I should just order the new ones and get them on the way, because I don't know when they're gonna show up.
right.
The problem with that is they might show up in September,
Yeah.
you know, and now we got a hold we got an issue if we, because for 2 portables and 2 mobile radio, the car radios, it's it's about 26 grand.
Yep.
And then we get 1,500 back from the state for each one, so that'd be 6 grand back. So it'd be roughly a 21 for a set of 2, you know, a mobile and portable for each guy, each car.
It's 20,000 per deputy, basically, then.
Basically.
Go and set them up personally.
Mm-hmm.
Our cost.
Yeah, our cost.
Our cost, that's kind of mandated by Siren 2020. And their offer is the 1,500 at
They
the
gave us
radio.
that big 1,500 bucks.
And here's the dilemma, that why I'm not ordering so many is because they're changing so fast. Now they're coming up with a whole new radio, and they're saying that, well, we need to, you know, we got burnt the last time we did this with the P25s.
Yep.
They said order, so we ordered all of them and got them all, and that was when the feds paid for them. And then 2 years later, oh, those don't work, you gotta order these. So we had to order again. And it was still at the feds cost at that time, but it was just like, now that we're spending county money, I'm a little more gun shy of spending something and then not having, you know, it be suitable, because something changed. Right now, we're buying the top of the line radio they have because that's what we have to buy. We have to have dual bands because we aren't even scheduled to be hooked into Siren 2020 until 2024. That's kind of why we're taking it a little slower. And a lot of the other counties are thinking the same way, Fargo and Dayton, are all there. But they're already switched into that system and they're already running it. Well, we aren't even scheduled to be looked at until 2024.
So the biggest concern is making sure that these radios work with that.
Absolutely, that's the biggest concern. Is the technology changing, are they changing something that, you know? I feel fairly confident we got what we need right now. But a lot of the other counties are buying the lower grade units. The way things change, I don't think anything's gonna change, but.
So with these radios, Steve, if there was to be updates, are they updatable?
Yes, and that's kind of the big cost, is because they're getting they can actually update them through the radio system.
Right. So that we're not buying something that can't be updated.
Exactly, and you have to, you can actually upgrade it through the radio system themselves. You don't have to take it to a radio shop to have it,
So that cost is probably less.
no, that's a cost per unit, yeah.
Yeah, but it's probably less than sending it all in.
Well, basically, you gotta drive your car to a radio shop and wherever that is for you. Luckily, you know, Stone's has a shop here, so a lot of times we can get it done here, but if they didn't, it would be Grand Forks, so we have to drive the car to every car to Grand Forks. You know, some of these other counties that don't have it, that's their choice, where to go. And there's encryption involved, there's all this, you know, all the other things that everybody wanted, so. Of course, that adds cost.
I think we need to get into the radio business. Yeah, sounds like pretty good. Pretty good.
Somebody's got the market covered pretty well.
But I understand there's costs associated with, you know, development and obviously the physical unit, but $20,000 seems like
A lot of money.
that's a lot.
For 2 portables and 2 car radios.
Yeah, that's an insane amount of money for, I mean, yeah. It's,
You got a truck.
yeah, we don't have, I mean, we did, they know we
And
don't have a
here's
choice, so.
the deal, if we don't go with that system, and we don't need to say we're not gonna do it, we're gonna be on a little island in the state with no
Yeah, I
communication.
mean, we
anyway.
have to, I mean.
Just like that, it's like all these phones, they got us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just where they want it.
We can't be without it.
So,
Well, as long as you think we got enough in there.
Well,
And we've got, you know, if something were
even
to
if I
happen,
order 2 more, I might just do that. I might just order another set today or this week. And if they show up before the end of the year, I still have enough in there to cover that as well.
you can say we got COVID dollars still sitting there too. We had to go
But I still have enough built in there that we have enough to cover it in my budget besides. And if we want to use COVID dollars, great, because that just goes back, saves our money, but, you know, I said, even if we don't have that available, I still have it covered.
Hopefully, once we're changed over, we don't have to, hopefully everything works.
I hope.
I hope too.
South Dakota built this whole system years ago with the same, and it failed miserably. And they had to start over again. And so, but now they're modeling it after Montana and South Dakota and they're, Minnesota. Evidently on the east side of the state, like Fargo, theirs is working well with Minnesota's. So they aren't having any issues, so it seems to be working okay with the Grand Forks and Fargo so far. So,
Okay. Further questions for Steve? Okay, thank you.
Steve?
Susie's not here yet. Hers says 9:15, so we'll move on to Jeff. What'd you say? She's at the radio station. Oh, okay. We got other things to
The
do.
joint board's budget didn't change from last year. Put in all the same amounts for all my counties.
Any discussion at the Basin Board about updating the letter?
We did we updated the LIDAR project. And with the International Water Institute, we did do that agreement on that. And what that is really a cool, computer program that they've taken all this, LIDAR data, the new LIDAR data that was from 2018, 2020, that time frame that was, and they're putting it back into their hydrology, methodologies to create wet watersheds and, wetland delineations and hydrographing. So we can take a road crossing and come up with a watershed for that particular road crossing, and it'll give us the numbers that we need to have for culvert sizes. And that's a basin-wide deal that their International Water Institute has done. And they need some extra money to make that available and continue their work doing it. And so that's something that the joint board contributed to. One of the ways that we feel that we can give back to all our counties. And it's available to anybody. You don't need a user or a password or anything like that. Just a matter of a few clicks of a mouse, and Paul uses that quite a bit, and I use it on a regular basis, looking at various watersheds and stream crossing standards and different things like that. So really a useful tool. And the data collection that we're getting from the end-on sites that we put up in the basin, I think we've got 5 of them that we've personally done through the joint board, and there, I think there's another 5 within the basin. But the amount of data that they're collecting is extremely beneficial. And there's a grant that UND was able to get that's going to do all season precipitation monitoring on some of those end-on stations. And we're getting a couple of those on our far northern sections of our basin up in the Clyde Raleigh area, and right on the headwaters of some of our major coulees. So we can get not only rain precipitation amounts, but snow water equivalent measurements. And that's the big thing that we're missing. You know, everybody has a rain gauge on their farm, and we get a lot of that data. And but what we're not getting is water equivalency in the snowfall. And so this new technology is going to really help with that. And hopefully we can have a better understanding of why we see about 700,000 acre feet of kids go on a year, and some years we see 100,000 acre feet go on our lake. So, but, yeah, we're gonna do that with the same budget that we asked for last year.
Okay. Questions for Jeff? There's nothing, sure. Okay, we'll wait for Suzie, so we'll move into Kevin.
All right, we do the agenda first and Paul busier.
Yep.
That's fine.
All right. We'll start with the road updates. They got done chip sealing our chip seal project yesterday, so that is done. And they also started, Paul was working on the paving project up by Hamden. They did start paving a couple days ago, right after the 4th. They got about half done now. So maybe Paul's got some stuff he can fill you in on the Hamden project.
Yeah, they got, I think 2.5 miles, lane miles done first day. They had a short day that day, but yesterday they got like 6.5 done, so they might actually finish main line tomorrow. If everything goes well, but they did get some rain and it turned the tack brown again, so they have to wait for that to dry out before they could keep paving. So I don't know, it might be Saturday, it might be Monday. And they're working on the concrete stuff in town. They make a bunch of changes there, but it'll work. Then, do this.
Yeah, there's a couple of change orders. The first one was a no dollar one, right? It was just changing wording on a spec, went from,
Went from 4% air voice to 3
yeah,
on that in the hot mix, and that lets you get a little bit more oil in the mix, which is good for low volume cables. And the spec, the standard spec will be changed between 2020 and 2022.
so that first one was basically a no dollar change order. The second change order is the one you're passing out now, right? Yeah. And the business with manhole covers, so maybe you can go into that one too.
So yeah, and there's 3 manholes within the pavement up in Hamden, and one of them's pretty low, the other ones are flush with the pavement, but we have to raise them up to match the new pavement overlay. We're gonna dig them out and put in chimney seals around them, but they're not really, there's no settlement around them, and they're not frost jacked up like some of the ones you see in town here. They don't really need to do the chimney seal, and I guess the contractor asked if they could just put riser rings on top of them. But, well, the cover will set in, match the new pavement, and they'll do that at a price reduction, so they don't have to do any digging and patching. So the original bid price was $1,700 each, and they said they'd do the rings for $500 each, so saving $3,600 between the 3. And it makes it a lot easier for them, so. Then the average end bid price for that line item is $900, and they're gonna do it for $5.
So that change order is basically saving us money.
That's what we're saving money.
Yeah,
That's the best change order I've ever heard.
right. Well, we're trying to keep you up to speed on the change orders, so you don't.
That's not gonna affect, like you said, since there's no frosties, there's nothing worth digging out, so it's gonna be okay to do it that way.
Yeah, I think so, they look good. I haven't been up there in the winter for a long time, but you normally see some deformation in the asphalt around it if that's happening. And I don't
There's
see
3
that.
manholes on Main Street, and
Yep, they're all on the block. Let's see, in the approach, the road going north, west of the post office, and then one in the middle of that block, and then one on the next approach to the north.
okay, what's the
For sanitary sewer.
It is sewer, they gotta see.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
Didn't know that.
The sewer is to the southeast a little bit.
I would've never guessed it.
Yeah. I mean, it's in the right part of town, so you never smell or anything either.
They should have been kind to put it to the northwest, and we know they haven't.
Never guessed that.
Need a motion to approve that change order?
Yeah, might as well, talk about it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the change order on County 3 Inland Overlay Project. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Everything's working all right past the station then,
Yeah, maybe Josh, he had a conversation with Josh, so maybe you can fill him in on what he.
Yeah, he was fine with us doing what's in the plans, but they didn't pay for it.
Yeah, so basically, he's still not helping, but it's gonna look funny if we don't do it, so we're gonna leave it, it's already in the plans to do it. They bid it that way and everything, so we're just gonna do it and end up paying for it. It's about, originally we asked them for about $4,000. It's about an $8,000 project for roughly 9,000, 8 or 9,000 improvement.
And the only thing they asked is that we not mill the slab in front of their garage doors, because we had jacked up tractors and stuff on that, we didn't have any asphalt on top of the concrete, which I get that, so we'll have a mill around that, and then, but they said we can mill through the islands, I talked to the people inside too.
Josh must be a very stressed person, because that's his personality, I guess. But, anyway, it's getting done now, so it'll look like it was meant to be that way.
Good.
Something we forgot to do.
And he did tell me that he pays taxes in there too. I made sure to let me know that.
they must appreciate the road. Very good.
Yeah.
From 17 up.
Gosh, what was it? I don't know, think of it, but, next week, we're gonna start doing our soft spots, spraying up our soft spots on the roads. I'm still working on FEMA projects, we still do not have a FEMA damage in the townships. We still do not have a declaration, but we're getting closer. It's on, the president's desk now.
So the same declaration for the ER and FEMA.
ER is different, we'll get to that no matter what. I mean, FHWA has to approve it, I shouldn't say that, but there doesn't have to be a FEMA declaration to get the federal aid money.
Okay.
It helps, of course, but yeah, it's not necessary.
That's what this 97,500 is. This flood damage.
$973,000.
There's some flood expense for flood damage, 97,500 in the budget.
Oh,
That's flood money that we've received
in the past.
for that year.
Got it.
Yeah.
Track.
That's, those years haven't been closed out with.
With FEMA and so.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. It takes forever to get a project.
Really showing up for.
Yeah.
A decade.
It'll be a decade. It is. And it's the funds we receive basically for running the program locally, basically.
Yeah,
We get a small
But it's
percentage.
spent money, right?
I don't know.
No, that's money is sitting there.
That's money just.
That's our, essentially our contracting fee.
It's administration committee that they give us, and they don't.
But we can't release it until they say that we're okay to release it, basically.
Right.
It just has to sit in the fund.
They don't earmark it for anything either, I mean, you can spend it for just about anything.
Once they tell us we're okay to
As
go.
soon as they say good to go.
And we can't invest it.
Yeah,
So it just sits
It
there.
has to just sit in an account.
the first thing FEMA tells you is when they spend
Oh, yeah.
these millions of dollars, you cannot put it in an investment.
Oh, yeah, that's a no-no. I know.
Yeah,
It
it's
doesn't
quite
make any
interesting.
sense to me, but
We'll take our dollar.
What years do we still have open? All the way back to like 11 or something,
11,
because I think we closed like
9,
8
10,
or,
11.
yeah, we closed 1 or 2 years, I think, since I've been out of commission, but there's still plenty open.
9, 10, 11, and
13.
So you gotta follow up on that, or they just come out?
No, they send us a letter, they send me a letter, it's been, I think it's 3 years after they closed the disaster, and then.
I want to say there's about 476,000 sitting there. Is that what it,
It's,
I have it on the cash sheet.
that's a lot.
Just,
Pretty much
yeah,
after they're
they
done.
roll
audits.
over every month.
Yeah,
It's money that we probably.
and at this point, 10 and 11, or 9, 10, and 11 11 have been audited, but we're just waiting for the closeout. The 13's been audited too, or done. So we're just waiting for the closeout date.
Yeah, and they gotta audit all our paperwork and all the township's paperwork and anybody that used any of the money and.
Wow.
Gotta make sure somebody didn't pave their driveway with it or something.
Yeah,
Starts in the old.
they scrutinize every invoice.
Yeah.
That's all.
So, I don't think I have anything else on road updates. You're amazing.
With Corps of Engineers asked for some information on or clarification on a couple things like a month ago on the bridge project, but I haven't heard anything more since then. So hopefully get a permit from that soon. Got that.
Okay, any questions on road updates? Our busy time of year.
Do you need a motion to pay that bill for KLJ that you have listed in your agenda update?
That was-
$8,440.38.
Yep.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
We're not back to the old one, okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve paying KLJ's bill, for the Highway 3 work of $84.40.38. Further discussion. Hearing none, roll call please.
Brown,
Aye.
Volk, Lisa,
Aye.
Brett,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye.
We did get our cutting edges from Butler for his summer use, and that was $10,261.22. Like a motion to take for that. So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay Butler for cutting edges. Further discussion. Hearing none, roll call please.
Brett,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye, motion carried.
And then Midco is asking to bury a fiber optic cable. I brought it up on the TV screen there. In Military Road on the south side of the ditch. You can kind of see where it is there. That's the curve down by Johnny Campbell's house. Way to the left up in the top corner of Johnny Campbell lives. So they're gonna bore underneath our county's road, right by Johnny's, and then probably just put it in with a trencher, what do you call it, spade, the rest of the way. Then dig in a service box on each end. And I didn't see a problem with it, but the permit, we need to, motion to approve the permit.
So nothing's gonna wreck the road there because they're under boring,
Yeah.
right?
Correct. Yeah, we'll do it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, excuse me, and a second to approve Midco, permit for Midco to 45 optic in the county right away Military Road. Further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Yeah. Preliminary estimate for the permanent repair of our washouts on our federal aid system. This includes engineering, $973,000. So our local match is gonna be, it's not, they call it an 80-20 match, but it's like, we pay 19.07%. So it's $190,000 would be our share. That's estimate for now, just for information. And that'll be in the 23 budget. We won't get that done until next year.
So that's assuming that we get a declaration and everything approved and everything like that. That's gonna be our out-of-pocket expense for this right now.
Yeah, and this is the federal aid stuff, not FEMA. Does that make sense? What we just talked about, we don't need the FEMA declaration to get this.
So this is gonna be lined up. This is federal aid. So then what happens if the FEMA declaration then happens? Then we receive possibly some more money, but we can't use it as match dollars.
All right.
But we can use it someplace else though.
FEMA would be to repair the slots that were damaged. That's.
Okay, so that would just offset some of these dollars that we would be receiving otherwise then.
Separate roads.
Oh, we were talking separate washouts then at the top.
Right.
So this is on the federal aid routes, if we receive those other FEMA dollars, we can use them on the non-federal aid routes then. Okay.
Yes, yep. So that's more for information, than anything. I did put it in my budget for next year, so,
So even with help, it was a really expensive spring, in other words.
yes. I mean, I'm estimating, we're not there yet, but I'm estimating $1 million worth of damage in all the county and the townships through FEMA. This is another million here, so. Yeah, crazy. And then moving on, we're gonna be renting a skid steer start next week from Ironhide. It's gonna cost around $3,200, that's for a month, and if we don't need it for a month, it'll reduce that rate, but. So I'd like a motion to go ahead and rent that since it's over 2,000.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve renting the skid steer from Ironhide for a month. Further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries.
One more thing I had to add, need to order some more colors, go on for door like $13,000 at a time. Crazy how many colors. But my order this time is for $29,427. I need a motion to go ahead and order that.
29,000, how much?
29,427.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to have Kevin order some more culverts. Further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries.
And just a heads up for now, I'm gonna be at the next meeting, so. if Anything comes up. I'll probably be out of cell phone range too.
Savage.
This is what, do you wanna talk about that or?
I just give you guys an update on the prairie dog ponds. It's still all facing the forecast, so last month they collected 79.5 million. And revenue, we're gonna need 53 to make it to grand. So should be a pretty good surplus at the end of that. Hopefully we can even see that, Columbus County buckets fill here at the end of the year, it'll start filling, and the first couple months it should fill next year.
So what that means is, if everything goes like it is going now, Ramsey County should get $1,669,000. That's an estimate, of course, we all know that. And not oil prices,
I think those are set.
and if the buckets still technically.
What if they fill fully, yeah, right.
So, and just so you guys know, I did not, we're supposed to get that, well, again, this is what they're telling us, we're supposed to get that the first part of 23. And I did not include any of that in my budget, because last time we did this, we got burned, so. Just so you know, that's not my budget for 23 yet.
So do they release those funds, this is for the 21-23 biennium, so.
Yeah,
So does, they release those funds immediately when the buckets fill then, or?
I don't remember.
Because the legislature's in session next, but it's usually not until July 1st is when the new fiscal year starts for the biennium, so. They'll release that previously if the bucket fills
So
that's what the NACO had sent out, and they said the first part of the year, first quarter of the year, so.
They'll have to release it at a good time.
Oh, it's already,
They
okay.
themselves do
Initial distribution to cities with population, okay, the equal amount will be applied to the township fund distributed once the buckets fill, and then once the buckets fill completely, then there's a remainder, okay. Okay,
the better report than we had last time.
Yeah, right. And the
so
oil
once this
prices,
bucket fills, then we get that, or some of that. Okay. So that's the thing, it's nice to get, but you can't bake, oil could fall out of bed overnight, you never know what's gonna happen.
yeah,
We just say pre-med.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah, that's all I have as far as the agenda.
all right, budget then. Or on page 23.
Yeah, you guys will have dealt with paper all. Is that the,
That's blacktop.
Blacktop.
so what we're predicting for, or what we're planning on spending money next year on the blacktop fund is, design and engineering for the flood projects, which is $221,500. Just so you're aware, we will have to, solicit for engineering on it once those dollars get approved. So we'll have to go through that process of selecting an engineer. That's just part of the process. If you want the feds to pay for the engineering. So, and then, for the second line, we call it the actual construction itself, $751,500. And then the construction engineering for the bridge on Ramsey 4. I did raise that a little, it's at $20,000. That's gonna change.
Probably put it there in that.
I think we'll be good for the dollars, what I predicted for dollars here. But the construction on the bridge is gonna be $150,000. And then there'll be some federal dollars with that also.
Oh, right, that's just a little, sorry, yeah, that's it.
And then, the last one, the design engineering on our next paving project from, which will be done in 24. And that would be from, on Ramsey County 3, from State 17 down to 8A. The road that goes west, down to there. And I put in 65,000 for that. I think that's one of the projects we're gonna look at shoulder widening, so. It's gonna be more expensive than what we normally are used to. So that ends up being $1,208,000. Any questions there? Okay, next page is Dakota Road. Salaries, of course, is we went by the list, and fixed charges. I raised up a little bit, that's our health insurance and benefits. I raised $3,000, I don't know if that's enough, but. Capital outlay is for purchase, equipment rental, which is 25,000, and also for buying culverts and for stock and for resale, that's 150,000. Next line is for construction. We have quite a few gravel projects going next year. So I guess if there's a place to reduce, this might be one of them, I don't know, but something to look at. The Ramsey County, Cavalier County line west of Hamden. I predicted 160,000 there. Ramsey 8D, which goes east of Lawton, 35,000. Ramsey 7C, which goes east of Brockett, was 40,000. Ramsey 7A, which goes west of Brockett, is 104,000. And then the last one is Ramsey County 2, Grand Harbor is 5 miles west, 7 miles north. And then this time we're gonna do the 4 miles that go back east, which hasn't been gravelled since I've been here. And that is 120,000. And then the townships help pay for part of that, like 25% or so. Next is bag water. I raised that up, the price went up considerably this year, so I raised that to 15,000. Repairing soft spots is 15,000. And then our overlay patches with blacktop is 50,000. And then the last one on that is most miscellaneous. And I just put 150,000 in there. We always seem to have a project that comes up here and there. So I'm predicting 150,000 there for a total of 1,081,000. And 1,081,018.42. Right? Any questions on that one? Okay. Our equipment, we never have. Can't use that for using yours. On a bridge, we didn't remove our bridges this summer, so that pretty much just stayed the same as it was last year. I think I did raise it a little bit for the price of culverts. Bridge inspection, this is our, 23 is our big year for bridge inspections, so I raised that a little bit. So total there is 116,000 for bridges. Okay, highway tax. This is the one that we get generated from the gas tax. It's not really a bill levy type of thing. This is the salaries for all the other workers. It's same as our scale we were given. Overtime and summer help is 35,000. Fixed charges are raised up a little to 275,000. Unemployment, which we haven't used, but every once in a while when somebody quits or whatever, they hit us for unemployment. And we haven't had to pay that for years, but I did put it back in the budget. Insurance has gone up a little on our vehicles. I raised that up a little bit. Travel and training, left that the same. Utilities, our heat and electricity, of course, we all know that's going up, so I raised that up a little bit to 65,500. Office supplies, I reduced a little because we're saving a little bit more on advertising now. Gas, oil, and fuel, this is kind of a moving target, but I raised that up considerably, another 40,000 to 140,000. And let's see. Supplies and materials stay the same on 183,000. That includes our gravel, riprap, sand, all that type of stuff. Repairs and maintenance, about the same, 30,000. Capital outlay. This year I'm putting in for a new payloader and skid steer, which we have some money left over from this year that we can use and then get a little bit bigger one. So I put 490,000 into there.
That was the same one we talked about before, right?
Yeah, correct. Yes. So the total on that budget is 2,032,357.60. Any questions there? I'm going too fast.
No.
All right.
It's a lot of big numbers.
Yeah.
Roads are expensive.
Okay, County Road project, that is our chip seal project. Let's see here what we're chip sealing next year. We're doing 4B, which would be I can't be right, it's 4C. Anyway, it goes from County 7, Rocket Road, south to US 2. And also that stretch on 8 between 3 and 4. So that's for next year. And I put down 695,000. I'll have to change that, it should be 4C. Any questions there? Okay, then we're to the flood budget, 99, 2001, 2005, all done, from. Okay, now the 2009, 10, and 11, and also 13, almost closed out now. It's just a matter of waiting for that 3-year deadline before we can. Do this thing.
We got them all closed out, then it's just a matter of waiting for the,
Yeah,
go ahead.
actually, we could spend that money if we needed to. I mean, they've already told us that we can, it's our money. In the closeout process, they tell us that it's ours. So if we need it for an emergency or something, I did put it into the budget. It's not like we have to pay any townships or any contractors or anybody else for the work that they've done. So it's our money. The only other one I have is the cemetery. I didn't have a sheet on the cemetery, but that's every one I have. Any questions?
Do you foresee any additional maintenance needed for Church's Ferry now that they're no longer a corporate community?
It wouldn't be a much. We probably got 5, 6 streets that are 2, 3 blocks long at the most, so half a day, I believe, 4, 5, 6 times a year. Oh, it's snow removal. I don't know. Yeah, it won't change much.
It won't change much.
And it's kind of comes out of the labor and fuel and that type of
Sure.
budget items.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit of increased fuel cost, but the guys in the blade regardless.
Right.
It's just, we're gonna get a break. Always.
Anything else?
Okay, any other questions for Kevin?
Thank you.
Hearing none,
All right,
thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. Good luck fishing.
thank you.
Don't forget to come back.
Yeah.
Okay. Susie's here. Morning, Susie.
Good morning. How are you guys? I sent Candy over the lake access budget for the year. Nothing really has changed, so I really have a whole lot to go over on it. The profit still remains roughly around 71,500 for the income, I should say. Might have to do a little tweaking on that. I estimated the game and fish income at 35,000, but we have to, as of last year, start itemizing everything back in our reports to game and fish, which has been a little tough because we have to break down what's being utilized for fish cleaning stations and what's actually being utilized for the landings. And so a lot of the bids are all in one, so just trying to put the percentages in there as far as what Bill does for the landings versus the fish cleaning station. So we'll work on tweaking that a little bit, hopefully bring that back up a little bit more. Other than that, we did include $1,500 for a yearly beach maintenance, and that's for the Lakewood Beach. We've been helping the park board with that, trying to maintain some sort of beach area there. Unfortunately, this year, the work that we put into it the last 2 years got washed away. So we did decide to keep that into the budget, and hopefully next year, being able to put some sand back in that area does get utilized quite a bit. And then the other thing we added under expenses was the shore fishing piers. So after the fishing piers are in, we realized there's some yearly maintenance with those that we have to do, and sometimes there's breakdowns and such. So we added a $2,000 item for that. Other than that, everything else is pretty much stayed the same. Under utilities, I guess we did increase. Right now it's under Gopher Sanitation, but we did under that utility increased that just slightly because of the fuel costs. So the bids came back a little bit higher than what they've been in the past. So other than that, everything else is pretty much the same, and I'll answer any questions if anybody has any.
Questions for Susan?
We are working through lake access and game and fish next year, just so you guys are aware. All of the grinders have been updated to the Barracuda grinders, except for Henniger. And so with all the projects going on with game and fish, they asked that we wait until next year. So we'll put in a grant to hopefully get Henniger Landing upgraded to the Barracuda grinders. Then they will all be upgraded to that new system, which has been really nice. The breakdowns are at minimal with those new grinders, which has been nice. And then we will work towards some more stair projects through game and fish. There's the stairs on Highway 57. And so we'll look at putting in some grants for those as well. So we have a couple of projects going on.
Where are the stairs that located?
Right off the roof.
Oh, there are. Okay.
It's, you ever get a chance, it's pretty nice.
So it gets stairs right over the rocks, it gets right down, is there like a landing not on the bottom of the shop?
Yes.
Yeah.
Last year was even more sand.
Yeah.
This year, but there is still, it actually gets used quite a bit.
Well, I would assume it would, yeah, for people to go over the rocks out.
I mean, I think it was a big hit.
It
A
was.
lot of people, I didn't think it was gonna get used that much, but it actually gets used a lot.
But it's not handicap.
No, unfortunately it's not, but they would have to.
Well, we got the fishing pier access for handicap accessibility, which
That's how it was justified, I believe Mike said, because there was handicap accessibility.
Well, Chad Lazy use a lot.
that is a very good addition. Okay, further questions for Susie? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Don't think I missed anything here. All right, on unfinished business. Standing committees of the NBCCA. Anybody look at their schedule, determine if they'd like to be forwarded for appointment?
So how far out does that go? Is that a 2-year thing?
If you're talking the legislative committee, most of it would be just during the session, I think, correct, Jeff? The other ones, like the resolutions, all that kind of stuff, it's basically just a yearly committee. So it'll meet before the October conference and then their work will be done. So that, the other ones are pretty quick comparatively. I would guess resolutions take a little bit of time, just because you gotta go through the resolutions process and make sure everything's written correctly, but it's all done by October. But the legislative one is by far the most active in terms of, because once you get into session, it'll be a meeting weekly.
Send all that out, right, Kennedy? Well, then everybody is set up.
It'll be a weekly meeting. Sometimes if it's something really important, they'll send you an email and say, we gotta jump on and talk real quick, you know, when something comes up. I think, especially towards the end of the session, when stuff's getting, horse trading's happening, it's going really fast. Just so you can get on the horn with your legislators and get their ear a little bit.
That was the one that you wrecked out, I'll do it. As long as I get notified. Email.
Oh, yeah, they're really good at it.
So that I can plan.
Oh, yeah, they'll keep it. And the meeting, the weekly meeting is usually a standing time, you know, so it's usually like a Friday and whatever, you know,
Yeah, as long as it is a 2-hour notice.
No, the only time that it'll be a short notice thing is, like I said, at the end of the session, but they'll always give you a time to make sure that you can find.
I just want to put it with my work.
Yeah, and we're just forwarding your name too, so if it's not a guarantee you'll get on it, but it's just, okay, we need a motion for that, or, okay?
So,
Second.
We have a motion and a second to forward, Mr. Molsey for the legislative committee. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye. Both same sign. Motion carries. Okay, thanks, Ben, appreciate that. Okay, any other committees anybody else wants to be on? Okay. Seeing none will be, okay. Okay. Site authorization on new business.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve site authorization, further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Vote same sign. Carries. Special permit. So,
Second.
motion and a second on the special permit, further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
I,
Vote same sign. Motion carries. Mileage increase. Fuel costs are going up, obviously. It's going, what, 62.5, it says?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Third.
Yeah, a motion is second to approve the mileage increase effective last week. Further discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Vote same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Visitors and delegations. Great. Okay. Portfolios. Commissioner Ducek, what do you do?
Oh, well, I don't have any portfolios. We do have the, July 9th now is the Lake Region Heritage Center. It's the art show. My paper here. There's like all kinds of vendors and, they're having a parade for the kids. They're supposed to make some kind of, out of old box. They're supposed to make something out of an old box, like a car or something. So that is, I'm looking for my paper here. I believe it was from 10 to 4. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, if you wander downtown this weekend on Saturday
Yeah.
morning, you'll find something. If you
Yeah.
go there.
Hopefully the weather cooperates with it.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Brown.
Yeah. We were at the jail, we hired Dan Kraft as the captain. He was there prior, 2 years ago, I think, was last time he was there. We're happy with that decision, and he's gonna start the 18th of this month. We feel that's what they allow us to go into the jail, and he will answer to Ramsey County. And we will fund it. And law enforcement center board seemed to be fine with that, so I have no complaints. So I think it's a step in the right direction. Working on,
Mike is gone now?
yes.
so, yeah, looking at getting the training done with the COs that we have there. We've got the numbers down to 19, I think it was, probably fluctuates a lot every day. We're meeting the guidelines the state's setting up for DOC, so. We hope to get these COs trained within the next month. And get back on board with kind of a regular increase.
The training is what was killing us, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're short staffed, we're still short. Very difficult to hire people as CEOs. Advertising numerous different places. They don't seem to think the pay is sufficient. They think it's sufficient, but it's getting them trained, that's the big item. So, in a nutshell, we hope it's going forward, so. Questions on that? Jeff, you need to add?
And no, I think that kind of sums things up. They continue to look at training opportunities, whether it's through other facilities around the state or trying to incorporate something into the peace officers training here at Lake Region State would be beneficial. I think we've talked about that in the past. that if there be an initial startup cost, that Ramsey County would like to try to help out with that. That's where our biggest concern is the lack of available training or a lack of available trained employees for correction officers. And so if we could get something close to home, would be the best thing for our facility. I think bringing Dan Kraft on as captain and under Ramsey County's, and I think that'll be a good start and a good direction for the facility and moving forward, and hopefully we can get back to either a level 2 or a level 1 facility quicker than the 90-day initial. They implemented that level 3 facility on July 1st, meaning we no longer holding the inmates longer than a 96-hour hold, which I burden on everybody involved. Court system, Mr. Cummings, the judges, everybody involved, and then the transportation of those inmates and keeping track of where they're at and when their court dates are. Been an issue, but I think yesterday they were down to 19, I think it was. So, a far cry from 100 a year ago. So,
And the reasoning of putting the captain under the county, Ramsey County is catching the bulk of this deal all the time. And I think it's another person that can answer to the county commission, no matter who's sitting here. And give us a better handle on what's going on in jail. Our responsibility as a county to fund, I think it's a step in the right direction there. Because then we have direct contact with who's housing the prisoners. And Steve thought that was a good move to go that way, and he's been very beneficial in helping with the jail here in the last month or whatever. And I think we're gonna get going in the right direction. I really think putting the captain under Ramsey County is gonna be very beneficial to Ramsey County, because we're gonna have first-hand knowledge on the population and what we gotta do and where we gotta move them and where they gotta be. Granted, we have another administrator for the 911 and the reentry, and that's a big item. The reentry, we can hire people there if she's fully staffed. We seem to get along pretty well over there. The only problem we have over there is the inability to collect the money from the federal government. What were they behind at the last meeting, 170 or something?
and it wasn't a 30-day behind, it was 6 month, 180 day.
A lot.
Are other jails having the same issue as far as getting?
Well, we're the only reentry center within the internal part of North Dakota. The rest of them are in Bismarck, Fargo, Grand Forks, Minot, I think.
BOP apparently is just,
Right.
they're notorious for not paying on time. The other thing is that the state only pays $68 or something on a
Yeah.
$90 bill, which is crazy to me, I guess.
There was some thought about closing the reentry. I never was in favor of it, but I think it's very beneficial, like I said, in the internal part of North Dakota, because most of the people that are using the reentry are from this area.
Yeah.
They're not more than probably 100 miles out.
Well, that was the discussion when I sat in on the last meeting and looking at the dollars, it's like, well, the individuals that are running through the reentry center are coming back to our community anyway. So we're better off giving them the best chance to do well when they come back to the community, rather than just having them, so it's worth subsidizing it locally somewhat, but it's something we have to continue to stay on the state, because it's, we're talking about mental health issues, we're talking about recovery issues, and all of those things tie in, and that's one of the things the governor's just been pounding on. Well, then fund it.
Absolutely.
We want to help, we want to go in this direction, but you can't just talk. There's gotta be dollars to follow it.
And And Steve has put John Kraft in this budget, then
Yes.
he has done that.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's there.
Okay,
We
That's
contacted Candy, we
okay,
got everything organized there, and for the 23 budget, he's in there,
okay.
and he will stay there. I just really feel that's gonna be a plus for Ramsey County's knowledge and how the jail's going and how things are progressing, because it'll be a day-to-day deal. I mean,
Versus getting to the second hand.
secondhand, and when I'm there or not there, and he'll be there to answer. He'll be under Steve, he'll be in his department, so he's under Steve. And, that's how they do it in rugby. It kind of makes sense to me. And like I said, plus another person to answer to the commission. Because we have a large bill there every year, and it's not gonna shrink by any means, I don't believe. I mean, we're in the prisoner business, we better get used to it.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing else there, senior meal's doing fine, so that's it.
Yes, that would be, got the dishwasher.
I did see where they got some money from.
And the dishwasher. I'll
Community
try.
fund too,
Yep.
so that was good.
That's in. Good, I suppose. Because technically we're adding a full-time employee,
Yeah.
doesn't, I guess.
Get it into our minutes,
Yeah, no, we're okay with it.
good idea, Candy.
Yeah.
Really,
It is.
I'd make a motion that we put, the captain of the correction facility under Ramsey County Sheriff's Department.
I'll second it.
We have a motion in a second, and as you said, the LEC board's been informed and they're okay with all things are going on that, so. Okay, further discussion? Reasonable.
Show our
Because all,
insurance.
yeah, well, all of a sudden there's money being paid to somebody else, it makes sense.
Good idea.
Essentially, it's a
Thank you very
position.
much.
Okay, no further discussion, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay.
And one other thing on the law enforcement center, I will again not be able to attend the next regular meeting on the 20th. So if somebody can fill in for me, I know Adam, I appreciate you doing it last time, work scheduling conflict, getting in the way, but no. We've been meeting on a regular basis here. Trying to keep everybody informed of what's going on, and, you know, making sure everybody's on the same page. Commissioner Brown's been doing a really good job with keeping everybody up to date and having weekly meetings with that. I think we took this week off because of everybody's scheduling conflicts, but, probably get back to it, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how things go. If there's a need, we'll call one and
Right.
we'll meet at 8, you know, on these special ones. And but if there's no need, we'll just carry on, you know. Go from there.
Like Wednesday, the 20th would be the regularly scheduled meeting, and I have a conflict, so I can't be there.
That's an 8 AM meeting.
8 AM.
Can you do that, Adam? I don't, Jackie's on vacation,
No,
so I don't know.
I should be able to again,
Okay.
I do have social services at 9, but if I have to miss that, it's.
Good.
Yeah. And I don't think we need another motion being
No,
it's standing as the alternate, so yeah, I'll try to make it work, so.
great, thank you.
Okay, good to go?
I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner Holden.
Lake access. I kind of went over that basically. The fair board had achievement days, that went well, rodeo went well, even with the one day of tough weather. They had a team roping event, the third day, that Sunday, that went really well also. They planned to do all 3 events again. District Health, as we all know, new administrator, 18 July, we got a meeting. Treasurer's been good, the recorder, I'll sit down with Ben and I'll have her put together how many documents were done, so we can kind of figure out what it would have cost by the county. You know what I mean? So we're all like the same. if she can put that together, how many documents were actually done, so we can figure it out, okay, the cost is $16. Other than that, all I have.
Do a lot of people go back and look at those real old documents? You know, because when you think about it, we've got all the tax books down and I don't know. I've looked in them in the winter, we do.
I would suggest, we put on some of that on hold for a while.
I'm just wondering how many people actually go back and search.
That's a reasonable question. The only thing I would say is it's off budget, so to speak, with the $100 since they're coming in. So as long as there's not a computer or something that has to be bought, you know, we can take certain stuff out of the Android budget, but if it's built up, we might as well use it to, I mean, we don't have to go crazy, but just keep chipping away at it.
Do another decade or two.
Yeah, well, it's gonna take that long probably.
I think we sit down and, okay, do a contract, you know, so that we're not every year now, they, oh, it went up, it went up.
Yeah.
Let's do a 2 or 3 year contract to get this much done. We're gonna be back to this date, and that's what it's gonna be. You know, that's my feeling on it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So that we're not blindsided, and now all of a sudden, we went from 35 cents to $2 a document.
Well, she has a list right here. So she's averaging right now 3,809 documents per month.
Yeah, cause if we would take that by 35.
Yeah, you'd have to do the math on it, figure it out, but she's got it in her budget, so it's just a matter of figuring out what's a fair dollar figure. If Katie doesn't think it's making sense for her financially, well, then maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle of it. Right, just something to work on.
Well, is there less documents per year going in the earlier years? I mean, if that's property gets split up, it'll be more and more.
It seems like the further she gets back, the faster they get put in.
Yeah, I would assume there's gonna be less documentation as we move further back. Who knows?
We must have an idea how many documents there are, because they're all scanned, right? And they're all have a year on them, so.
Yeah, all the scanning, I think, has all been accomplished now, it's just a matter of indexing them, so.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to index them, because otherwise the scanning cost is pretty much worthless anyway, it just takes time to move through it.
As they go back, there's less transfers of property.
Yeah, exactly. That's, at some point you run out of it, it's just somebody got it.
Yeah.
Somebody's had it for 80 years.
Yeah, right. So once you get back, I think once you get back 2 more decades, I bet you.
I would assume so. Okay, anything else? No, you said you were done. I'm sorry, goodness, I'm losing. Commissioner Fred, sorry.
I don't have a whole lot that hasn't been covered. You know, Sheriff Nelson was in and his department's been busy. I know search and rescue that falls under his department was called out a couple times within the past month for assistance on the water, and certainly glad that organization exists within our community and they're available and have a great group of volunteers that serve those individuals.
That was the one out there where you prop went across somebody's stomach and
Yeah.
bleeding going on. And lucky they were able to get out there immediately.
Right.
Very beneficial.
Extension, I think Commissioner Volk hit, the achievement days within the past week or two, and on-site home farm visits. I know they really enjoyed doing those, and the kids and their parents really enjoyed showing off their farms and their animals and all those kind of things. And Lindsay is doing a fantastic job. I think she asked her for some numbers on the PP acres, and she did a really good job trying to track that down, even though it's not extensions deal, it's an FSA deal. And really what best numbers we can come up with is probably anywhere from 10 to 25%, depending on which part of the county. The southern part of the county is a little better off than the northern part of the county with some of the PP acres, but I think they're people really worked really hard to try to get every acre they could have access to, get some seed in the ground, so. I don't think we're gonna have the PP acres that we saw in some of the high moisture years that we've had in the past, the 13 and the 11s and things like that. We had a lot of PP acres in the county, those particular years. Airport Authority is meeting Monday. They continue to move forward on all their projects that they have going on. And we had to delay one earlier this spring because the bids just came in way out of line with what our budget was for, and so we have some time to put that one off and continue to work on spending all the ARPA money that the airport received with the expansion of the terminal and the fire suppression building and things like that we'll be upgrading out there. So.
All right, very good.
Just did on a range out there. I was there both days and helped set up and help take down. And Lindsay and Sarah are there to help. Yeah, Lindsay was running the tractor the second day. Four mistakes. She handed me the keys. I was
I went to visit Ramsey a couple weeks ago, and Cindy, and she's getting the full gamut of what North Dakota spring can be like here. Went from a crazy winter to a crazy spring, and yeah, it's just been, she's getting the full out of it, and I think she's swimming pretty well, so. And I think the PP thing is gonna be interesting too, because I think we're gonna have less PP than we anticipated, but we're gonna have some abandoned acres too. Because there was a lot of canola that went in late, and then we got that 3-inch pounding rain, and there's been some stuff around that's abandoned too, because it just didn't get out of the ground, so it's gonna be kind of interesting to see where those numbers come in from FSA.
And one thing that we should mention, since we're in the budget discussion and the ACO committees, that employee benefit interim study. I don't know where that's going or what direction they're looking at, but they were reminding us to possibly include budget items for taking that on if Andy PERS drops counties back into their own deal. So, but that was something that was brought up at last legislative session right towards the end, and it got poo-pooed, but I know they did put that into an interim study.
Any changes impacting county costs will not be implemented before 2024.
So we've got another year to think about it, but it should be on everybody's radar that could be a possibility within this next legislative session.
Yeah, well, and the interim committee work was specific, they weren't looking at different, it was basically just if we stay this or if we go to this, and
Right.
these are the two.
Yeah.
Here's the financial
Yeah.
side or effects of both of those situations, so. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the legislative session, because there's gonna have to be a pretty big discussion at that point from the Association of Counties on, do we try to run it, or do we just throw it back in the county's laps, or how, because it's not just us, it's counties, it's cities, it's, there's a lot of different.
Political subdivisions all across the.
I think they said about the only political subdivisions in the state that wouldn't be affected are the schools, because they're in their own separate structure, so.
It's gonna be a big issue in this session, that's for
And
sure.
Ramsey County's outstanding dollar figure right now is, what is it, something like $13 million or something like that, so I mean, you can't just all of a sudden throw it on top of us. I mean, we've been expecting how this is gonna work for a long time, so, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting thing to deal with, that's for sure. We're gonna have to work with our legislators on it and really, I think, educate them from our perspective on why we think it's a good idea to keep it going.
We did have with the chamber, well, I don't know if it was part of the chamber, but it was a committee, community committee that got together, and we took a look at, after that city sales tax, the park sales tax increase passed. We went and toured the Lever South building. Lever's family is gonna be committing that building and that property over to the park board's usage for some additional recreational type of activities and, you know, there's a plethora of ideas that are being thrown out there of what can be done and what people would like to see and what would be beneficial for the quality of life or for the community of citizens of Devils Lake and Ramsey County. And so, I think we have a plate full, but, you know, I think the big plus is that there's a building already there. You know, that they're not looking to build a big new facility that.
And retrofit costs are gonna be a lot more reasonable than trying to build from square one, and it's not maybe exactly perfect for everything you wanna do, but you can make it work.
Yep.
And they'll be trying to keep comparatively, so. And I would assume at some point there's gonna be a possibility of maybe an ARPA dollar ask from us too, to maybe get involved with it. I don't know what kind of dollar figure, but something to at least keep on our plate, and then the ARPA committee will have multiple things in front of them, or options. So
Right.
there hasn't been a lot of asks yet, I think we'll be, something like that.
And I guess with that and with the elections over, I'd ask Commissioner Lightpond to work with Mayor Mo and working with the city commission to kind of have a joint city county, sit down and work out some of our community projects and our operational efforts and things like that. I think it'd be good that we all sit across from the table from one another and
Well, I don't disagree. I actually, after Forward Devils Lake yesterday, spoke with Spencer, you know, the new city administrator, and visited about it and said, you know, once the mayor kind of gets his feet under him, give him a little bit of time, but we should sit down as both entities. And I figured maybe I would start just one-on-one talking with them, because we got a lot of things we gotta hammer out, from LEC to community-wide efforts and things like that. So I think it would be worthwhile at some point. Maybe have a new commissioner and so we'll have some new commissioners here, obviously in November, but it's never hurts to keep those communication lines open.
Right.
We'll work on it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. From my perspective, library board met yesterday. Everything seems to be going pretty well there. The one thing that we did do 2 meetings ago, and I forgot to mention is, we decided to go to a no late fee system, because the late fees were so minuscule in terms of what you could collect, and all it was a barrier for people to come in and check stuff out. It's still gonna be, if the book doesn't come back in the time frame after a certain amount of days, then it becomes, you can't check anything out anymore. But the late fee structure wasn't really working very well, so we decided to do that. I think it's gonna be beneficial. There's actually a lot of different research that we looked at before we made the change. So hopefully that'll work well. Basically the concept is, what, you know, if you still have the book, but you had it a couple extra days late, but you can't afford the couple dollars or whatever to pay for it, well, someone should be able to read another book. So, so hopefully that'll help out. We went over a lot of policy language over there, just trying to update stuff. Policies haven't been updated for a while. We got some of the budget stuff back from the city, being there under the city pay scale and stuff, so they'll be in, second meeting in July probably to talk about that. I think it's gonna be pretty similar to last year's budget. We were having a discussion about mills yesterday and stuff, and I was trying to haul grain at the same time, so I was kind of confused. But I think it's gonna be okay. We'll get her hammered out. Law enforcement center, you guys touched on, I was in last month. Social services, I missed last month. The one thing I did see is, I got an email from Rhonda a while back. Apparently we're, must be not running attendant care anymore with step school, correct? Because we've been having staffing problems with it and everything this whole time. It's like anything trying to get people, and I think there's a long-term discussion that's gonna have to occur, not necessarily around attendant care, but around all of the different systems in place, foster care, shelter care. You know, we've had that problem here, but other counties especially too, with kids staying in courthouses, and we jumped on the, what was it called, the Families First Act immediately, and then that shut down facilities where children had places to go that were safe and things like that. And so it's been kind of we haven't had a huge problem with it, we've had problems.
It's on the horizon.
But it's definitely on the horizon, and other counties have had larger problems than we've had with it, so. It's gonna be something that's gonna be a continual conversation, I think it's gonna have to be a conversation at the legislature too, because if you think about it, if you've got a kid that comes out of a placement or needs a placement, there's no foster care services to send them to, they've gotta sit in the courthouse, what is it doing to that kid? You know, I mean, it's telling them, you know, you're not wanted, or there's no place for you to go, or, and it's detrimental, so there's gonna be an ongoing conversation around that, obviously. North Central Housing, things are starting to go pretty well there. We're fully staffed, getting our apartments filled, which is good. Tim is getting his feet under him now to the point where he harped on HUD enough that they said, you know what, yeah, maybe we should provide training for directors. So they actually provided training for directors. It only took them a year of yelling at them to say, hey, let's have a training session, but we got that done, so he said it was very beneficial. They had a trainer from out of North Carolina or something, but that is specific to Section 8 as well as public housing. And that's gonna be something that's not necessarily a county thing, but ongoing. HUD is pushing towards, at least in our view, after sitting on that board for multiple years now, that they don't want people in the public housing business anymore. They want more of a Section 8 where they'll just give vouchers and things of that nature instead of your local entity running apartment buildings. So the question will be then at that point, if they start to make that move, how do you transition out of those apartment buildings or whatnot? So I think for the near future, it's gonna stay similar to what it is now, but the writing is on the wall, I think, to a point that that's one of the ways that they might get going that way. One thing I will say is, you know, waiting lists and stuff were up to date, which is a positive. I saw a story out of Chicago a while back where they finally had Section 8 approval after 29 years or something like that, so. 29 years to get an approval to get on the Section 8, to get a voucher. Our waiting list is completely cleaned up. We're up to date on everything, so if anybody knows anybody that needs a place to live, you send them over to Tim, because we've got apartments.
Yeah, Adam brought that up at the law enforcement center. Probably a good idea,
Well, yeah, I mean, if we've got obviously stipulations on different apartment buildings, you got family units versus the high-rise downtown here. High-rise downtown is meant more for handicap and elderly, but if they're a young professional or something, and they're looking for a one-bedroom or something, there's options there. You know, there's income limits and everything, obviously, but, you know, it never hurts to ask and see what we can do. And we were running, I think, at the last meeting at about 87% capacity, so we've got some apartments open, but we had people moving in, so we've been really making a push to try to get people in, and during COVID, people just weren't moving. So if you had openings, people just weren't coming in. Now we're starting to see more people interested in moving in, so that's a good thing. For Devil's Lake, we met yesterday. Brad's got his plate full, lots of stuff going on, local project work. The Northeast Planning Council counties are working on, the state commerce has a grant program where our 6-county region, I can't tell you the exact 6 counties, but it's like that's Ramsey, Rowlett, Cavalier. There's $1 million pot of money out there for additional COVID response type stuff, but it's not COVID response, it's just like, so the 6 counties and their economic development people have got together and they've kind of come up with a couple different plans they're doing. And the state has to approve them, but one of them is mobile job training development for like high school kids, trying to, you know, show them and specific to our communities. These are jobs that are available in our communities. If you want to stay here, here's our 2020 program. There's tuition assistance. There's all kinds of things to try to match kids up with jobs in our communities before they go someplace and don't come back. So that's one of the projects they're working on. And then the other one is a child care assistance program. So if the state approves that, we'll have some additional dollars for grants for child care assistance and fitting up buildings and things of that nature. So that's what he's been working on, a lot of stuff going on there too. So I don't think I have anything else from in the county.
I got it.
Oh, we've got some stuff.
2 things.
we had a relatively safe and quiet Fourth of July on the law enforcement side of things, so kudos to Sheriff Nelson and his team for keeping that in line. Secondly, got some bad news. Our new assistant state's attorney that we had hired backed out, got poached by Grand Forks County, paid him $15,000 more than we did. So we're gonna have to repost and go through that process again. That's obviously frustrating, but can't force him to work here. So, so you know,
It was a good candidate.
was. And, you know, he's from Winnipeg originally, so being an hour and a half closer to home was a big deal for him. But got some good news though, that apparently there's some newer attorneys coming back to the Lake region, so hopefully we can get this out and get somebody on board, help with the work a little bit, so. So y'all should know.
Since it's already been approved, we don't need to do that again.
I'm just gonna stay within that window that you gave me.
Okay.
Yeah, if we continue to have problems at that price point, we might have to. Oh. Well, find somebody that's interested. I hope so. Okay. I think I'm good too. Nothing crazy going on, election's done,
Elections.
very well taken care of, everything worked well. So, thanks to all the election workers, when we went in that day, it worked nice and smooth. Everything was good. Thank you, Candy.
It's, like I told them, I'm like, it's all their work. To make the day just be so smooth and they enjoy it, they enjoyed lunch, they.
We got tacos the first day.
Yeah, we do taco bar. What are you talking about?
Okay, nothing else for the good of the order?
I guess you have announcements on there.
Oh, yes, announcements, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, fishing has no boundaries, annual event at the casino here this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. If you wanna come out and check it out, and if you have a boat, you wanna bring some people out, or sure, we get that too, but, good time, whether you get on the water or not.
Thank you.
Having the schedule of events on the, inside the flyer, which shows, you know, our daily routine, and lots of fun.
Awesome. Good deal. I was gonna say that's, I knew it was coming up, and I knew you were involved, so.
Yeah.
I just almost skipped it off.
I think we got at least 60 people moving on the water.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Good deal, Chris.
I'll be out there.
Thank you for your service there. I was told by Candy to announce it's Lisa's birthday.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Number one,
Happy birthday.
Okay.
40, yeah.
No, it's actually 57, it's getting closer to retirement.
Really don't.
Are we supposed to sing or are we
No.
supposed to
I give to you, me not say.
sing? There you go. Well, happy birthday, Lisa.
Thank you.
Really hard.
We had the ice cream truck here yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and called the girl that runs it. Made an appointment and she came back here. I think a lot of people, there's a lineup out there. So
Well,
I
that
think
ice
she
cream
was
that ice
filling
cream
up.
truck's been all over the place. I think they're doing pretty well.
She actually like drove through the parking lot and there was a vehicle behind her, like.
Following the ice cream truck?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
There's ice cream?
Yeah, I think it's been
It
a
was
good little thing.
reasonable, it was, yeah, it was really good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Nothing else? We are adjourned.
Thank you.